There's a deadly virus being spread across the entire world. It's the end of the world and there's one man that can stop it. Batman. Welcome to the Complete Story series, where I take trade paperbacks and single issues, and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then, I read them dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Now, let's get on with the show because I'm Batman!
"300 miles north of the Arctic Circle, Batman walks through the blistering blizzard. And after finally reaching the research facility that he's been looking for, he holds out his arms as thrusters fire up. As the ice melts away off the door, Bruce kicks it in, and he heads inside. He shouts the name Victor, and no one responds. He looks around to see the researchers caught in a sudden blast, giving them no time to even prepare themselves, and then there's a shriek that pierces the silence. From the darkness, several sets of eyes focus on Batman, and Batman once again calls out to Victor, asking him, "What have you done?" Those eyes in the darkness begin to move closer, and the frozen creatures begin to walk out of the shadows. As they surround Batman, he tries to hold off as many as he can, but just more appear. "Welcome, Batman, to the top of the world," Freeze says, leading more of the frozen creatures. The creatures begin to take apart Batman's suit, and Batman calls out for him not to do this. "I've only come to talk." And Freeze tells him, "Sure, that's why you came. That's why you're wearing a suit full of weapons to kill what's here, what's alive in the ice." The creatures follow Freeze to the core of the facility, and Batman tells him to just listen. "There's a squadron coming, some new division. They're going to incinerate this place." Without listening, Freeze goes on asking Batman, "Do you know who these people are up here?" "They are my new friends. They are the Dreaming." These people were those that were sleeping on ice, held in cryogenic stasis, waiting to be reborn. A few months ago, I started to wake them up, though using an imperfect but viable technology, so that they could become a part of my army. They would help me steal what I needed to continue my research so that I may eventually perfect the techniques and revive my dear Nora. After listening to those that I had awoken, I learned that these people had put faith in the cradling ice so that they could wake up in a better world. That's when I understood it. I couldn't wake Nora into this polluted, overrun world. Batman tells him, "You're planning to unfreeze a deadly bacteria. It'll start a necrosis in plants, animals, and even humans. It will kill everyone on Earth." And Freeze tells Batman, "I'm sorry, but I disagree. When the bomb falls, it will melt the ice core and release the virus. However, we will be safe inside of our chambers." He then puts Batman into a cryogenic pod and he tells him, "Good night." Batman calls out to him over and over, but within seconds, the gas fills the pod and he falls asleep. Now, with Batman taken care of, Freeze can see it. The bomb dropping, his ice creatures with him, Nora with him. And then there's something that he sees. He sees a bat. No. What he sees is hot death. Freeze watches as Batman crawls out of the pod, skin blistering, asking, "What did you do?" And as he tackles and touches Batman's skin, he knows it's bats. Bats are the most effective carriers of disease because of heat, surviving what would normally kill them. And now this man carried a virus hidden in his blood so that when his skin was exposed, it would become airborne. Batman beats down on Freeze, all the while he screams for him to stop! And Batman doesn't listen. Freeze shouts that he can hear Nora screaming for him, but it's not Nora. It's the sound of planes passing by and dropping bombs. Batman throws Freeze into a cryogenic pod, and then he hops in, closing the door, snapping the handle off. The bombs fall, they burn the facility in the ice, and Freeze screams. He screams loud. He screams until his throat burns. Later, over in Death Valley at the Nevada border, Dr. Pamela Isley, Poison Ivy, makes the same drive that she's made for the past 5 years. She pulls up to an old tree, and she gets out saying, "Hello, partner." She undresses down to her suit, and she takes dirt from the tree, rubbing it across her eyes, telling the tree that she's excited to be back. It's time for them to get to work. After bringing to life the old tree, she sets up her tent to continue her research, and then there's a sound coming from the outside. She pulls back on the tent opening and sees Batman walking towards her, and she shouts, "No! You need to get out of here! You need to get the hell!" The vines shoot out, grabbing Batman, but before they can, he disappears. Ivy feels his presence behind her and she asks, "Why are you here? To fight?" The vines lash out, grabbing Batman by the arms and the throat, and he tells her, "No, I'm here to ask for your help." A short while later, she looks over a file asking, "Who is this?" Batman tells her that the little girl's name is Lilith Sergio, age 14. 13 hours ago, she went into the woods and she came out infected with something. She then looks at the slide under a microscope and says that it's a cruel worm. Where did it come from? Batman struggles to the vines, saying that it's an ancient bacteria that Freeze let loose. He thought that he stopped it, but somehow Lilith came in contact with it and the vines tighten around his neck, and Ivy tells him, "You're keeping something from me." Batman continues telling her, "I went to stop Freeze. There was a strike force after him. They had been tracking him longer than I suspected, and I don't know who they are, but they're coming to take you down. They've gotten a wind of this tree and the things that you've been pulling out of it, biological weapons, and they see the virus as you using its flora." The vines tighten again, and Ivy says, "You're still hiding something." Batman tries to say, "Lilith is running out of time." The vines pull, and Ivy leans in, telling him, "No, she's already dead, isn't she?" The speed of this growth, the girl must have died about 13 hours ago. They incinerated her just as you arrived, right? Batman remains silent, and Ivy goes on saying, "It must be spreading too. It's been loose for what, 7 hours? Raging through rural Washington, stretching out, and now they want a cure? The story of the little girl was to win over my sympathy, wasn't it?" Batman then says, "She died less than an hour ago. They're naming the plague after her. It's called Lily's Cradle. If you don't act soon." Ivy leans in and she kisses Batman, and the vines shoot out from the tent, and Ivy says, "They have come. Don't let them get to me." Through Ivy's kiss, Batman tells her, "I'm a person who will not let them get to you." The vines whip out, swinging at the invisible soldiers, and Batman calls out that they're wearing quantum stealth. As the two fight off, Batman begins to think about the tech, and he realizes who the tech is coming from. He grabs one of the men, demanding, "How did you get it? Who sent you after me?" Before the soldier can answer, another two throw a net over Ivy, and they ready a flamethrower. The soldier fires off the flamethrower, and Bruce stops the two before they can burn Ivy. She pulls the net off, saying, "That was good work. Now we have to hurt these men so that they'll never..." And Batman stops her, telling her, "They're not aiming for you." And Ivy gasps. The two watch as the old tree burns, and Ivy says all of her work, gone. Batman reaches out to her, and she shouts for him to just get the hell out of here. Batman then says, "I'm sorry," as he pulls the wax lips off of his face. Ivy asks, "I wasn't controlling you? Why did you fight for me?" Batman turns to walk away, and he says, "I was fighting for Pamela Isley and for Lilith, and I'm sorry that I was too late." The vines crawl out, and they hold out a flower, and Ivy says that they can create an agent from this. It will destroy the spore without harming the host. Batman tells her thank you, and Ivy tells him, "One last thing. Don't let them name the disease after Lilith, or I will let loose something worse than Freeze. Make sure you clear that girl's name." Later in Mississippi Delta, Batman walks out of the swamp thinking back to when he first met Jervis Tetch, the man known as the Mad Hatter. The first time meeting the Mad Hatter, he was late, but this time, the Mad Hatter won't see him coming. It's been a month since Freeze released a spore into the atmosphere, and since they found a cure using Poison Ivy's flower, the resulting halted the Death Patch. But now this strike force has a name. It's the Blackhawks, and they are a long-vanished strike force known for taking down apocalyptic threats. The armor that they use is more than just camouflage. It literally convinces the brain that what you're seeing is not there. Duke stayed behind to watch over the patch and make sure the cure held, and an hour ago, Duke went missing. Just then, a net is thrown over Batman, and he can hear voices that he knows. He looks up to see Kate Kane, Dick Grayson, and Jason Todd. Kate says that she has information, and Batman says, "Of course, I will listen." Before she can talk, Batman throws a battering past her, electrocuting her. Batman then gets up from the net, throwing his cape onto Jason, and he starts to wrap it around a tree. Dick jumps in, and Batman uses a flamingo and bashes it across Dick's face. He then leans down, ripping the costume off of Dick's chest, and he sees the Blackhawks insignia. He thinks that if they were really his friends, they would actually know how to fight. He then looks at the flamingos, and he sees them all staring at him, and they begin to open up, and he thinks that the Mad Hatter had actually been watching him this whole time. It doesn't take long for Batman to get into the Mad Hatter's mansion, walking by all the hats that he has created. When Batman looks up at the stage, there stands the Mad Hatter, thinking that Batman doesn't see him, but it doesn't matter. He's already taken the blockers so that he can see the truth. Without saying a word, he jumps up on the stage, grabbing the Mad Hatter and slamming him into the wall. The Mad Hatter giggles, saying, "Just so you know, I'm not the one behind all of this. There's actually someone who is behind everything." Batman grabs the Mad Hatter, holding him off the stage, telling him, "I've already planted explosives all over this place, and I'm going to set them off if I don't get." The Mad Hatter laughs, pulling out a hat, telling him, "I wouldn't do that if I were you." Batman thinks back. That was the hat that he was wearing when they first met. Batman takes the hat, and he throws it, telling himself, "You're just trying to trick me." But it doesn't work. Batman begins to see the room change. He grabs the Mad Hatter by the face, shouting, "This isn't real!" And then Batman turns to see all the villains that he's fought in the past. The Mad Hatter tells him that they're here to end this. And inside Batman's mind, he begins to fight off everyone trying to break free. And as he does, he finds himself strapped to a chair. The Mad Hatter asks if he wants to see the other side, if he wants to see himself in a wheelchair with Alfred. The Mad Hatter tells him to go ahead. Hand it over, just give it to him. And Batman struggles as he listens, telling him, "No, I will not." Just then the button is pressed and an explosion goes off. Batman breaks out of the chair and he runs into the past villains. As he fights them, the Black Hawk soldiers begin to appear, and another explosion goes off, knocking everyone to the ground. The Mad Hatter jumps on Batman's back to strangle him, and as the third explosion goes off, it throws the two of them out into the swamp. Batman gets up and he stands over the Mad Hatter as he tries to talk, so Batman steps on his head, pushing him into the water. A few moments pass and Batman lets the Mad Hatter up, and he begins to talk about who is behind this and why they are behind it all. After getting what he needed, Batman headed to Washington, D.C., straight to the Washington Monument. He shouts for Alfred that he has no GPS, no weapons, and they have 19 minutes before the Blackhawks put a bullet in Duke's head. Alfred tries to secure a route, and as the helicopters fire down on him, Batman shouts, "Forget it! I'll direct myself!" And then he calls out over the radio that whoever is listening, they need to respond. Up in the monument, two men walk towards a window, and one says that they've been trying to reach him. The other man says to just go ahead and patch him through. The first man hands over the phone, and Batman's voice comes across asking, "Are you there?" The second man says, "I am. Now tell me a story of the end of the world, Bruce." Batman shouts, "It was you from the beginning, wasn't it? Just playing me from the start. You commissioned tech for the Blackhawks, you got Freeze into the facility, you burned Ivy's research, and now the end of the world with a death spot." As the man aims the rifle, he tells Batman, "Tell me quickly, what is it that you want to hear? Just say the word." At first, Batman remains silent, and then he says, "I found Damon." The rifle goes off and the bullet shoots past through a bike's tire, throwing Batman off into the lake below. The man says at first he saw the monument as a great sword for his homeland, and now he sees that it's a pen. And tonight, it writes the story of Ra's al Ghul. Ubu says that it's 9 minutes until activation, and Ra's tells him, "Look at them all." Ubu then says that they should toast early. It's the label that makes this vintage so expensive. But before Ra's turns back, the bottle is thrown, hitting Ra's in the head, and Batman looks down telling him, "Cheers." Ra's looks up telling him, "I'm going to guess that one of the people that I shot was my mistresses. Using my own tech against me, huh?" Ra's then starts to get back up telling him, "It's amazing, isn't it? My little monster." Batman tells him, "What I found on the Hatter tech was no monster. It's a DMN, Disruptive Multilingual Nanoprocessor. Every player has been after one this powerful for years, easy to slip into any circuit board and take them over. So my question is, what happened? This kind of thing is nothing like you." Ra's pulls out a sword from his cane, and as he gets closer, Batman throws his body into the display case. As Batman picks up a musket from the shattered case, he says, "Everyone outside is in a panic and terrified. They don't know who to blame, and they're on the brink of hysteria. So no, I'm not here for a stupid duel. I'm here to bring you down, even if I have to bust this musket over your head." Ra's swings his sword, cutting away at Batman, telling him, "There was a demon for everything, for every pain. But you know who's the greatest demon of them all? Batman." A giant man-bat swoops down, grabbing Batman through the window and pulling him out. Ra's tells him, "It's time for me to take the damn title back." Ra's then presses a button and Batman shouts, asking, "What did you just do?" Ra's says that I sent a signal. Right now, oscillators are bursting in every power plant in Therion, causing a meltdown. Electromagnets are malfunctioning across East Asia, causing millions of deaths. And pumps all across Russia are exploding, destroying oil and causing an economic ruin. Everyone is asking who to blame, but no one knows. And that's the genius of it, Dark Knight. Batman pulls himself back up, shouting to the Blackhawks to move in. And Ra's laughs, telling him, "There are no Blackhawks. They're just a team of my assassins in disguise." Batman begs for Ra's to stop the signal, but Ra's tells him, "This is not a Batman story, no matter how it looks." Ra's takes aim with the rifle and he fires, hitting Batman in the temple. As his body falls, Ra's tells Ubu to go ahead and have Duke killed. Down below, the people begin to riot, and Ra's says that this is perfect. Just as Ra's enjoys his moment of victory, Batman begins to stand back up, and Ra's asks him, "How are you alive?" As Batman's face begins to heal and reconstruct itself, he tells him, "Everything that you think just happened across the world, well, it didn't happen. The bottle you hit me with earlier, the label was Hatter Tech, and with the Hatter toxin enhanced with the pheromones from Ivy, and frozen for time release with Freeze Tech. So for the last minute, I've been stopping your signal, and Alfred has been putting out an alert with all of your plans. What you've been staring at was a light, because like it or not, this is a Batman story." One of the man-bats flies down grabbing Ra's, and Ra's shouts, "The world will end the way I said it will!" Batman tries to chase after him, and as he jumps, the man-bat flies off, leaving Batman to fall. Batman thinks to himself that it will begin again with something small, most likely a single phone going black, and it will start again. Just before hitting the ground, a soldier swings by, grabbing Batman by the ankle, and as they set him down, Batman sees the Blackhawks insignia. The soldier waves, saying, "We'll be watching," and Batman shrugs, stating, "I guess they are real." As he walks off, Duke radios in asking if everything's alright, and Batman tells him, "Yeah, but Ra's escaped with his flying monkeys." A passerby sees Batman, takes out her phone, and snaps a picture. And as Batman walks off, her phone suddenly goes black.
I hope you guys enjoyed that story. Now that he saved the day, it's time for the light to be brought in and shine upon my beautiful face. And Dan's. Anyway, click the video right here if you want to see more here at Comicstorian. It's recommended by YouTube, and I don't believe it's valid. Over here is going to be the Batman Complete Story. And if you click where Dan's head is right now, that will allow you to subscribe to the channel. And you can remove Dan and fire him. If enough of you subscribe through this channel, we will fire Dan. What do you think about that, Dan?
No, don't subscribe. I can't win that argument.